Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
With Robb Flynn.
What up, podcast party people. Keep on turning. I said people, don't be living. Whoa. You know I'm singing some Chili Peppers, don't you? You know that. I was just talking. I'm on Twitch right now. I got my Twitch twats watching the intro. And I was just telling him how we're having a brownout here at the studio. A brownout is when it's not quite a blackout, but not all the power. Like the power is like a third strength right now. Like look at these lights behind me if you're watching on YouTube. Like you can barely, this shit's normally like glowing bright as fuck. It's barely even, it's weird. Like my extension cord's plugged in and it's not getting any power to the computer, so my computer could possibly die while doing this. My podcast recorder's working, but then I got a little space heater in here. I can't get it to turn on because there's not enough power. The fucking rehearsal room's next door. I've fucking blacked out. Like it's just, everything's out there. So it's fucking weird, man. Some weird shit. But it's working enough for me to record an intro for today's Mark Tremonti episode. I just got off of doing a podcast with Andy Biersack from Black Veil Brides, which was awesome. What a great guy. Super cool and chill. And he's got a funny last name, Biersack. And he's like, yes, it's as bad and mangled as it sounds and looks. Biersack. He's got a sack of beers. But, yeah, just got up there. It was cool. It was a cool talk, too. It was a really cool talk. That'll probably be dropping at the beginning of the new year. Right now, you know, we're kind of winding down. G-Mike's going to be giving me some best of highlight clips. I got to come down here on another day and do, like, highlight episodes, and that'll play over. You know, Christmas Eve is on Friday. New Year's Eve is on Friday. You know, I know some of you motherfuckers will be listening, but most of you motherfuckers won't be listening. Couple of truck drivers will be, some of the shout out to my truck drivers who will probably be listening on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, but you ain't gonna be listening. You know, most people are gonna come around to it after the holidays, which I get. I'm cool with that. I won't be coming around till much after the holidays either, but I'll be working through the holidays. I often work on music over the holidays. I don't know why. I just find like it's kind of necessary to do that. And since we're getting close to the end of the record, since we're putting the finishing touches on everything, I got to stay on my grind, man. I got to stay on my grind. Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying, Twitch twats? So, yeah, I'll be working over the break. Although I won't be working on Christmas Eve. I'm going to go visit the fam. I'm going to go visit my stepsister. And then New Year's Eve, we're having an epic New Year's Eve extravaganza on the Electric Happy Hour. It'll be awesome, just like last year's was awesome. So that'll be a banger. And this Friday coming up, later the evening after I drop this motherfucker, is going to be the Christmas Spectacular, which is also on the same day as the 40th anniversary of Metallica shows on Friday and Sunday. And so we're going to go do our Electric Happy Hour, probably play a handful of Metallica songs to celebrate a little bit of 40th anniversary Metallica love. And then we're going to go over and check out the show. That's right. We're going to go check out the show. Should be good. Be a good one. I'm curious to see what kind of surprises they're going to bust out on the first night. If it's going to be deep cuts, is it going to be hits, special guests? What's it going to be? I don't know. But yeah, looking forward to it. We got all of our Christmas stuff up inside the house now. Ginevra was able to. Ginevra got a fake tree, a fake Christmas tree from down the street. I swear to God, this thing looks exactly like a fucking real Christmas tree. Like, I couldn't even tell the difference when I saw it. I was like, holy shit, that's a good looking fake tree. You know, she's been talking about getting a fake tree for a while, and we used to get the real trees, but it's like, it's so wasteful. And they're pretty pricey now, so we're just like, whatever. She got it, and it looked good, and I was like, fuck it, looks good. Perfect size. So we got all that up. She got all the stockings up and all the nutcrackers and all the Santa Claus shit. She's got all these pictures of the kids growing up from, like, you know, being babies sitting with Santa, and it's like, it's crazy. Because we're looking at him, and then we're looking at my fucking big galoot son, 17. I think he's now 6'4". He's fucking gigantic. And, but it's just cool to hang out. It's funny, though. She had you know, some of the nutcrackers sing a song. They sing like a Christmas song, and she like busted out one, and it was just like, her and Wyatt were looking at it, and it was just like, we wish you a Merry Christmas. Like, they were just fucking cracking up looking at this thing like this dying nutcracker. It's pretty fucking funny. Pretty fucking funny. Speaking of my big galoot son, he just passed his driver's license test. Motherfucker's driving to fucking school now. Like, it's a game changer. Like, we just get up and kind of like direct him now. Like, hey, you know, go get some breakfast. Hey, go, you know, make sure they're out the door, because he'll fucking sleep through 5 alarms. Must be nice to be a teenager and just be able to sleep through 5 fucking alarms. He's got his phone set to just it just rings for like 45 minutes in the morning. And he sleeps through it. I'm like, you need to get a really annoying alarm. Bam, bam, bam. You know, just something that's like, what the fuck? He's got this like kind of do 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 do. And I'm like, that's just too fucking. Of course you're sleeping through that. It's fucking too mellow. You need something to wake your ass up, boy. Wake your ass up, boy. And then he's like, he's been prone to sleepwalking before. So like you can actually go in there, wake him up. I'll be like, hey, big boy, wake up. We take turns. I do Tuesday and Thursday. Ginevra does Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I'll go in there, and like sometimes he'll sit up, look at me, kind of mumble around, but he'll be totally asleep, and he will be asleep. It's like he's sleepwalking, but he's not walking. He's just in his bed still asleep. And then I'll lay back down, and I'm like, I think he was awake. So then I got to go in there a few more times because, you know, got to make sure that he was actually awake when I went in there. But yeah, these last couple, Monday was just weird. Yesterday was just, and he got it Thursday. So Friday he drove, him and his brother, and we were like, what? Like, we just said goodbye at the door. We're like, all right, bye. This is weird. You just drove yourself to school. I mean, after driving these motherfuckers for the last 17 years everywhere, yeah, it was weird. It was weird. And it was cool. You know, I'm super proud of him. I was super proud of him that he got his driver's license, passed on the first time. He only missed a few things. But yeah, it was a big moment. And Ginevra's like, look, just because, you know, you got a car now, this isn't carte blanche. Just go anywhere, get out of all your fucking chores and shit. You still got chores, motherfucker. Chores. All right, I'm getting the indicator that my computer, because we're going through a brownout. My computer isn't charging. It's not getting electricity from the wall, so my computer's about to die. So I'm going to wrap this up fairly quickly here. Fairly quickly. What were my other things? I don't remember my other subjects now. Oh, I played the other night. We were drinking. The wife and I were drinking. We do Friday and Saturday. That's our drinking night. Every other Sunday through Thursday, sober as a fucking judge. But Friday and Saturday, we'll do it up. And on Saturday night, Xander was out, and we were asking Wyatt was home, and we were like, hey, you want to play like Quirkle? You want to play some Spot It? You want to play some board game? We have to play board games. I don't want to fucking play some stupid video games. we got a foosball table. We're like, want to play some foosball? He's like, yeah, let's play some foosball. So Wyatt's fucking devastating at the foosball. And foosball is like, it's kind of like soccer on a table. And fucking hell, man. Him against Ginevra and I. The wife and I slaughtered every time. I think we won one game, but he fucking devastated us. 3 games in a row. We were like, Jesus. This is 2 adults playing against a 14-year-old. Fuck. It was fun. I was like, you're too good. But it was fun. It's always fun just to play. Fun just to play. We had a good time, and then her and I went and kicked it in the garage. We brought in the blankets because it was a little cold, and got all our candles going. And then we just sit there and we play music, and we talk, and we laugh, and we sometimes dance, and yeah, it's a good time. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes we just tell stories, and sometimes we argue. That happens too. But yeah, in fact, next Tuesday, when I go do my intro for next Tuesday, it'll be next Tuesday, the 21st of December, will be the 30th anniversary of the day that her and I got together. It's the day of our first kiss, our first makeout session. And I'll tell a bunch of funny stories on that day. I'll save them all for that day. But yeah, it's crazy. 30 years. This was 1991 was a crazy. I started Machine Head. I met Ginevra. Like these things that would transform my life forever. And yeah, it was wild shit. It was wild shit. Anyway, so I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna do all my best of stuff for those days, and then yeah, let's get to it here. I'm running out of. I'm starting to get a little anxious about my computer dying before this finishes. Mark Tremonti, who you know from Creed, you know from Alter Bridge, but if you also didn't know, he's got a solo record out. This is from an album called Dust. This is the opening track called My Last Mistake. It's kind of a banger too, dude. He's got some thrash metal chops going. He's going some rap vibes here. Okay, there he goes. Kind of kill switch almost. It was cool. I like that. That sounds good. I listened to this the other day. This is a song called Leave It Alone, number 2 song on Spotify. I'm sure everybody knows those Creed songs. I don't need to play the Creed songs, not to mention I'll probably get a copyright strike if I do, so I'm not going to do that. Latest album is called Marching in Time. I don't got my glasses on. Marching in Time. That's the new shit. Go check it out. This isn't from there, but that last song was. Number 1 song on Spotify is the title track, Dust, off of the album that I played you the thrash metal jam from. This is an interview with the mighty Mark Tremonti. Mark Tremonti.
What's happening?
How you doing, man?
Good. Yourself?
I'm doing excellent. This is quite the epic, grand background you have with the church windows. It's fucking rad.
Hey, well, thank you. I'm at my house, at my studio. So I've been building it for 5 years. Finally got it done.
Wow. That's killer.
Absolutely.
Is it like a drum room slash studio, or just like
It's
you
the
can do
drums are
everything?
over there, so it's
Okay.
kind of like a live room. This is where we do our rehearsals and whatnot. But we've written all the Alter Bridge records in this room pretty much back in the day.
Wow, killer.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
the
that's a hell of a
live room.
vibe to write in, dude. And being able to see sunlight while you're writing music, that's weird.
Yeah, yeah. It used to be really dark. It used to be all soundproofed and kind of drab and dark, but I painted it all white. It's just happier in here. If you
Right.
spend all day in here, you want it to be bright and happy, you know?
Right, totally. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe this was different for you, but like, when you first start rehearsing, you're usually in a rehearsal hall with like, 20 other bands, and you just have a room and a fluorescent light, right?
A nasty room.
A
Yeah, with the
nasty
garbage.
beer soaked room. Yeah.
Right, that's right. Those were the days. Those are good times, though.
Yeah, for sure. No, that would be much cooler to create in.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah,
You in your studio now?
I am. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I have mine separate. I didn't want mine part of my house. It's just, I need to get away.
Yeah. Yeah, mine's tough because there's the guest room is right next door, and I've had my in-laws there. So at night when I write, I worry that it's going to keep them up. But in the morning, they're like, that piece you were working on last night, that sounded great.
That's awesome.
It doesn't bother us. But at 4 o'clock in the morning, you're like, come on, should I turn it down or?
Right.
Uh,
Are you that type of guy? Do you write like all hours of the night? Like if you wake up at 3 a.m. and you got an idea, do you get up and try and get it down?
if I'm in bed and I come up with something, I'll get up and record it in my phone or something. But I'm not going to come down to the studio.
Okay. Gotcha.
But if I'm in the studio and I'm working and I'm having one of those days where stuff's happening,
Mhm.
I just won't stop. I'll go until the sun comes up. But um, I've learned that lesson. You can go weeks without a single good idea, but if you have that one day where it just keeps on happening, I'm not going to go to bed. I'll stay up for 48 hours if I have to.
Yeah.
If
Right.
it's happening.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Is this where also you wrote the new solo record?
This is well, actually, I just moved back into the studio about I think 8 months ago. So most of it was written at my other house.
Okay.
So it was a little bedroom that I had to move to another house while I was fixing this place up, and I was in this little girl's bedroom. So it was like bright blue with mermaids and stuff in the closet. So it's very not metal, but I got it done.
I mean, hey, maybe it was like the contradiction, right? Like
Yeah, it worked. It made it an emotional, nice, happy record.
you're like, this room is making me angry. It's so fucking happy.
Hey, man, it worked. Maybe I have to go back there.
Right, right. Yeah, some cool stuff. I mean, I gotta say, I'm kind of late to the Solo Party albums. I started listening to them last night for really the first time. I had heard, Alter Bridge and Creed and stuff, but I was kind of missed that. And I remember hearing about it, but I really did the deep dive last night. And dude, there's some like genuinely thrashy, cool shit on there. I didn't not expect it, but it was just a pleasant surprise to hear, like, especially on Cauterize. Seems like that record's definitely got like maybe some of your thrashiest influences.
Yeah, I grew up a speed metal guy, so when I got into Creed, it was just you run into other guys in college, you put a band together. It's not like I'm looking for the guys that like the same music. I'm looking for the guy with the best voice and the guy who plays the drums the best, and we kind of put our influences together. But this band was me going back to what I never got to do in the first place, which was to, do a speed metal band. But it's a mixture between metal and 70s soft rock because I love the old school 70s rock, and I try to mix that with my, my Bay Area speed metal influences when I was a kid.
Yeah. When I was researching you, and I think I always kind of knew this about you, but you were a big Testament fan, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Alex Skolnick was, I would imagine, an influence to some degree.
Well, when I was a kid, he was out of reach for me. He was
Right.
I couldn't touch it.
Right.
So I was more. I could learn like Black Flag songs, or Bad Brain songs, and then when I got into metal, I could pull off some Anthrax, I could pull off a little bit of Metallica, but when it got to like Testament solos and Megadeth and stuff like that. That was a little bit out of my reach until I was, until I was 10 years deep.
Right. Right. Do you have
Yeah.
an appreciation for Alex now? Like now that you're an accomplished guitar, you won, best guitar player a million, bunch of times in a row now. Like, can you look back at his playing and be like, wow, like,
Yeah. And how he's a jazz guy now. So he's a very intelligent player. He's not just, he's not a metal guy. He's a well-rounded all around. He knows the instrument. He knows the theory behind it. He knows the history of it. I've gotten to hang out with him a few times. Nicest guy in the world.
Total. Awesome.
You think you'd meet him and he'd be some tough guy, but he's more of a shy guy, when you meet him.
Yeah.
So I find that a lot of people are like that when they're really good at their instrument because they spend a lot of time by themselves and not a lot of time with people because they're practicing their instrument so much.
Right. That's funny that you would have thought he was a tough guy.
Yeah. Well, they're in a metal. The Testament was a tough sounding band.
Right. Right. Totally.
Chuck Billy is kind of like a big outgoing,
right,
tough kind of dude. My funny Chuck Billy story. I remember I was in Australia doing a tour, and we were doing a show, and Testament was in the same area, and they were at the airport. And Chuck Billy comes over. I'm like, this is rad. I've never met him. And he goes over to Miles to say hi. Hey, Miles. Yeah, it's great to meet you. I'm like, Miles doesn't even listen to Testament. Miles, name 2 songs by Testament, and you're getting all the love from Chuck Billy.
That's classic. Do you go over and say hi to him at some point, though?
I just kind of sat there, see if he was going to make his rounds, but I think he just said hi to Miles and dipped. So
it's funny. It's funny. I do the same thing. Like sometimes when you're in a band, like everybody thinks that every band knows each other and talks with each other, and like is just like, yeah, we're like, but like somebody comes around, and if you're, like I would do the same thing that you did. Like if he came over, like I wouldn't be like, hey, dude, fucking bird, like, I'd just be like, cool, like I'm. I
should have talked. I should have stirred stuff up. He doesn't even know your band.
That would have been funny. That would have been funny. Yeah. that would have been funny to be like, Miles, name 2 Testament songs.
Right. You wouldn't have, he might have been able to, but I doubt it. He likes his metal, but it's more, he went from like liking Judas Priest to like fast forwarding to Lamb of God and beyond. I think
okay. Gotcha.
A big window of the metal.
Gotcha.
So like all of us, I think he started out with metal, but I don't think he was a speed metal guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I just went and saw Testament. They just played on Saturday here. I guess they had to cancel their tour, but they did the one Bay Area show, which was awesome. And them, Exodus and Death Angels, really cool.
Oh.
Bay Area throwback, amazing.
That's my jam. Death Angels is another one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Rob Cavastani, killer guitar player. Yeah. Super underrated guitar player, man.
Remember when the Ultraviolence came out and they were like 17 years old or something?
Right. 15. They were 15.
Just showing it. Yeah.
Drummer was 13.
What?
Yeah, Andy was 13.
When they recorded the Ultraviolence.
When they're touring the Ultraviolence, he's 13 years old.
Jeez, that's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, they had such an early start, but
what happened to him? Because I know now they have a new drummer.
Yeah, they have Will Carroll, who actually played in Machine Head for a minute. Andy got in. They got in a really bad when they were on their 3rd album. I think they were still only like 19. They got in a really bad RV crash, and they all got really injured. But he ended up having, it crushed part of his eye socket, and he had to have like a bunch of reconstructive. It kind of threw the whole band into like a tailspin back then for a while. And he's good. He still plays though. He's still a homie. I talk to him. I do a thing called ROBB FLYNN and Friends, which for my birthday, it's just like a birthday bash, and I just have a bunch of friends play. And he's one of my drummers. Like he'll come and jam, and he's fucking awesome and funny, and but he had like tons of reconstructive surgery to like get his vision back. So it was kind of a crazy thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're down here in Orlando a lot recording with my buddy Jason Sukoff.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So he's extended the welcome. Come out, man. Come hang while they record. But I'm always on tour, or I'm never here at the right times to go hang out with him.
Yeah, I got to say, Alex at the Testament show. You know, I toured with Testament back when they were kind of like on New Order, and you know, like back then he was kind of awkward. I mean, ripping guitar player, but like he was very like kind of awkward on stage, pretty shy. Like, you know, didn't really engage with the audience too much. And watching him the other night, you know, and I've thought this for a while now, but just watching him the other night, he's so grown into the guitar hero he was always meant to be. You know what I mean? Like he's doing shots, you know, he's like up there, he's like getting in the poses and he's putting one leg out and like resting it. And I was just like, fuck it. I mean, he's like super engaging with the crowd and like, you know, all of that kind of, you know, I think he was still pretty, you know, we were both, you know, I mean, we were like maybe in our late teens, early 20s. And so like whatever that awkward teenage, you know, years, like he fucking killed it. Like it was amazing to watch. Like it was.
But then he steps off stage and he's that same shy dude. It's when he's on stage, I think that he's that persona, you know?
Totally. But really fun. Like he's really funny. Like if you ever hang out with him, like he's got a devastating wit, man. Like he's funny. Yeah.
I hang out with him a few times, and he's just the nicest guy, you know. Just chill.
Yeah. Do you pull from those places when you're writing songs? Like, I mean, you don't really plan out what you're doing, right? You just kind of write.
Yeah, I try to. When I was younger, I would just throw on a drum loop and just go after it. And now I find that if I just pick up a guitar and do the same thing, I'm going to come up with the same thing. So I'll do. I fell into the alternate tuning thing. I try to find every alternate tuning I can find to write with, because I don't want to. I think when you take theory and throw it out the window and jump after the guitar again, it's like a whole nother instrument sometimes, and it will make you sound different. And I did that for years, and then I started kind of doing the same things with alternate tunings and starting to do familiar things. So recently I just try to find like the most random stuff to write to. Like if I'll go through YouTube and find like royalty-free rap loops, you know, something that's just in the background that you're writing to that you might not ever think to do. And then strip away those loops and write your own thing, just to put you in a different mood. On the last Alter Bridge record I did, I found a bunch of synthwave stuff, like John Carpenter, kind of moody synth stuff, and wrote a couple songs in that style. And I bought Omnisphere for Pro Tools, and it's just the coolest. You just take it's a synth program, and you just.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a piano player, but I can you know, hit one note and hit chord progressions, and it creates these awesome cinematic backgrounds. Wow. And,
that's cool.
Yeah, so I try to not just pick up the guitar and start with the guitar. I try to bring in different influences as much as I can. Yeah,
that's really cool. That's a super cool way to do it. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Do you ever use the MIDI pickup thing?
You're talking about the I have not, but I use a MIDI pedal that makes the guitar sound like a synthesizer.
Oh, okay.
We actually, it's funny, we did that on the last Alter Bridge record. Miles used it a lot tracking, and I told my producer, I'm like, man, we need to lay off the MIDI stuff. It's just, we're a rock band. I turn the programming down. He's like, dude, that's not the program. That's Miles's part. He's just playing a pedal that sounds like a keyboard. So I'm like, all right.
Oh, okay.
So through the whole mix, I'm like, turn that crap down. Turn it down.
More guitars.
That's right. Miles like, those are my parts, man.
Right. Yeah, nice, man. Are you pretty stoked with the reaction to the new solo record?
I am. You know, it's the only thing you can ever ask for is for your fans to say it's their favorite record. You know, every record that goes by, you want them to say, this is my favorite. These are my favorite tracks. And we got a lot of that on this record. But the thing that pisses me off is the last Alter Bridge record that came out was our most successful record. COVID breaks out. We can't tour on it. This record comes out. We tour on it for 3 weeks, and then we get knocked off our second tour, and our third tour is looking pretty rough because Europe is shutting down again. You know, it's
right.
So to me, it's just a lot of you know how hard it is to put out a record, how much work it takes to put out a record. It's a never-ending day after day after day in the studio before you get something that you're really proud of, and then you put it out and you can't do anything with it. It's you know,
You get blue
so
balls. You've got
yeah,
torn blue balls.
So to answer your question, yeah, I love to hear that, that the response has been great, but it sucks that you can't use that positive response and actually give it to the people. It's
Right.
very frustrating right now.
You did 3 weeks though of touring.
We did 3 weeks of touring, and then we went out in the States, and tour got canceled after a week.
Oh, you did 3 weeks prior to the pandemic? No,
We did, we did 3 weeks with Seven Dust in the States, and then
just recently.
That was completely fine. Yeah, just recently, a couple months ago. And then we went back out on a big tour with Travis Brock, us, Seven Dust, and Chris Daughtry. And Daughtry's had the worst news ever. His daughter was murdered during the tour. Wow. So it was devastating. So
that's horrible.
He was doing sound check and got the call, and just we were all crushed. And then we got the call. My manager called me. He said, "You know what? This is what happened, but we're gonna do the show tonight, and we want you and LeJean to make an announcement that Chris won't be playing, but there was a family emergency." So actually, the promoter, I think somebody got up there and told everybody that Chris wouldn't be there. Anybody could refund their tickets. Everybody stayed. It was a great crowd. It was a great show. But, imagine I was the first band to perform after we heard the news. So I didn't know how the hell I was going to act on stage. What do you do? Hey, guys, let's, after you've heard such terrible news. And my drummer was out with COVID. So I'm doing an acoustic thing.
No.
And Morgan... Yeah,
you can't even do your band show.
I can't win. So I'm up there doing an acoustic thing, and then we have Morgan from Seven Dust come up and play drums for a few songs, and it made it more of an emotional show, especially when you're playing acoustic and you heard all the news and you're just devastated for Chris. It was actually one of the best shows of the tour, crowd reaction wise. But before going on stage, I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? You can't even smile on stage. You can't. Right. What do you? So I pretty much just told the crowd, there was an emergency, and we're going to do our best to keep the spirits up. And thanks for sticking around, kind of thing.
Right on. Yeah, that is tough though. You got to. I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges of fronting a band is that no matter what went on in your life that day or that week, like you got to be like, this is the best thing I've ever done. Like tonight's awesome.
Let's have fun, everybody. Yeah, being a front man is definitely a difficult thing. It's not something that you could learn on YouTube.
Right. Do you have were you ever a front man in any of your bands prior to Creed or anything like that?
I never wanted to be a front man.
Right.
I just but when I started doing the front man thing, once I was
about 2015 is your first solo. No, it's before that, right?
It might be 7 years we might have done it now.
Okay, yeah.
But I remember the very first night being a front man. I felt fine because the lights were still in front of me. I still had a microphone. I still had my guitar. I had everything else. The only thing different was I was in front of the drums now.
Right.
And then you'd rock out, and then in between songs, you'd forget that you had to talk to people. And at first, I was like a WWE wrestler. Like, I wasn't myself. I was like, come on.
Totally, right? You like, I got to be in character or something, right?
Yeah. So I try to mellow that out.
I love that you said that. That's fucking great.
So I try to be myself more now, but I hated watching videos in my early days. Like, come on, everybody. It just wasn't me. So Miles is a great front man. Miles is just very calm when he talks.
Very relaxed, yeah.
And I used to think he needed to be more aggressive, but I think he's perfect. He's absolutely the crowd loves him because he's himself.
Yeah. Do you have a new appreciation for what it takes to be a front man?
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a lot of trial and error. You can't. I remember when I was just playing guitar. And I would get the crowd to clap while Miles was doing something else. I'd do that and the crowd would clap. I'm like, what happens if I go like this and the crowd doesn't clap? I look like a complete idiot. So as a front man, especially when you're doing festivals and you go to Europe and you're playing and Iron Maiden's on the bill and you're just a band that nobody knows and you're trying to get them to raise their hands and you end up just doing this and nobody does it back. That's something you just gotta tough it out.
Right.
Do whatever.
Right. You're like, what did I do wrong there that this didn't work?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
funny. I had a similar path to you. Like I was just a guitar player for the first 7 years that I was in bands, which was great. I could just drink and like play guitar, and then I could drink after the show, didn't have to worry about my throat or nothing. Like just like, well, let's go.
Yeah.
And then I became this singer, and I was like, whoa, like responsibilities. I mean, I remember like, and I have a thing even now, like all these years later, I have a thing where if I like it's between songs and like I'll go back to change a guitar or drink some water or whatever, and if it starts getting quiet, like the audience starts getting quiet, dude, this feeling of fucking anxiety just comes over. Like I gotta go out there and say, I gotta keep the energy up, like I don't need to do it, but like it's like a trigger or something. Like I gotta go fucking entertain or whatever. It's so dumb, but
people don't get it. No, anybody who's not a front man does not get that. It's when we went on the last tour, I told my guitar player who knows Pro Tools better than I do, we need intros for every song. I need stuff in between every single song. As soon as the last song stops, I want you to hit a trigger to have some kind of pad going on so there's never any dead space.
Right.
And we got a few songs done, and then we did a festival, and my buddy Corey Lowry was watching the show, and he's like,
love Corey.
He's like, you guys are all great. You did a great job. You did a great job. I have one critique. I'm like, all right, what is it? He's like, I can't stand the dead space. I'm like, I told you guys. I told you there cannot be any dead space in between songs. It's eerie because we have so many different guitar tunings.
Okay.
I'm always having to change guitars.
I was just going to ask that.
The crowd cheers, and sometimes they cheer, and then they slow down their cheers, and then all of a sudden it's quiet, and it's just dead space.
It's the worst.
The show goes like this, and it's hard to get them back once that happens.
Yeah, so, I know. You feel like I'm losing them.
Yeah, it's the worst. So Omnisphere is a great program just to hit a couple keys and have some cool pads going on.
Yeah,
you cut it off as soon as the song starts. But
do you do it in the key that sets up the next song?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're kind of, or maybe even play a little variation of it or whatever.
Yeah. So there's either if it's in the same tuning, we can just have our drummer just do this and have the bass rumble and go into the next song while I'm talking. Or, but yeah, I had to when I got the Omnisphere, I wrote 5 or 6 different intros to the tunes. And it makes such a huge difference for me. As a front man now, when the song stops, I can go take a sip of beer and catch my breath, let my voice heal before I come back to the next song. Instead of, like you said, panicking and thinking everybody's judging you and looking at you.
But there's no way to run your songs together because there's just too many guitar changes?
I do, when I set up the set lists, I do, I try to do them in groupings of tunings, but usually there's never more than 3 songs in a row that are the same. So I'll have like 3 songs, 2 songs, 1 song, 3 songs, 2 songs.
Yeah, at least you run them together. I love when bands do that.
Got to, yeah. I hate having to change guitars, but all the tunings, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I got to say that was my one pet peeve about Exodus the other night. They stopped between every song. I was just like, run some songs together. Like, you don't need to talk between every, like just keep the energy going. But it's just a pet peeve I have for anybody, like my punk rock buddies did the same thing, and I was like, guys, run some songs together. Jesus, like, you don't need to,
just, the energy just keeps going like this as long as you keep them running.
Yeah. Take me back to young Mark Tremonti growing up. You grew up in Ohio, right?
I grew up in Detroit.
Oh, Detroit, Michigan. Right. Grosse Pointe.
Grosse Pointe, yeah. Yes. So I say Detroit, but Grosse Pointe is this nice little suburb on the outskirts of Detroit. That's I grew up. I had a park behind me, and it was great. I had a great childhood. I had 2 older brothers that were rock and roll guys. One was the one who got me into metal, and the other one was I had my one brother. They had 2 rooms above me. One of them listened to Slayer and Venom and all the heavy stuff you get. And on the other side, my other brother listened to Van Halen and Kiss and Ted Nugent and had all the Fangoria magazines all over.
Nice.
Our house was definitely full of music. And then my parents listened to 70s soft rock, which I love just as much.
Right.
So as I grew up, I didn't even try to, it was just naturally, I wanted to keep those melodic 70s songs and throw them into a Slayer band,
Right.
do my best.
When you say 70s soft rock, do you mean like Eagles or Fleetwood Mac or Hall & Oates? Like, what are you referring to?
Jerry Rafferty, Baker Street's one of my favorite songs ever, or Michael McDonald.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
I'm talking like pop, 70s soft pop rock, or the climax.
Doobie Brothers? Like Doobie Brothers type of stuff?
Doobie Brothers, yeah. Climax Blues Band, Christopher Cross, or
right.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I loved it because it just reminds me of my childhood. It just when I hear that music, it makes me relax.
Is Christopher Cross sailing? Sailing, take me away.
Oh yeah, I love that song. That song comes on, I'm not turning the station.
I love that song too. It's awesome. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Like the pop of the easy pop of the day.
Yeah, that's what when my parents were driving me to school. That what was on in the car, and I loved it. And then one night, and then just like every other kid in school, the Beastie Boys came out, and everybody had License to Ill, and I think the Violent Femmes were out, and half the people like that, and half the people like this, and then all of a sudden one night I couldn't go to sleep, and I asked my brother, "Can I borrow one of your tapes? What's that song about the sanitarium?" He's like, "Here you go, Master of Puppets."
Right.
And I just fell straight in, man. That's my most influential, favorite record of all time. That changed my life as a musician. That made me a musician, that record.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what a great place to start. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah. So there's also this kid in my school. Oh gosh, what was his name? I forget, but he used to burn all kinds of tapes and bring them in, and he would kind of sell them for $5 or whatnot, or $3, whatever it was. So I learned Death Angel from him. I learned Celtic Frost was probably my biggest discovery from him. He gave me Into the Pandemonium.
Oh shit!
That Celtic Frost is my favorite band of all time, matched with Metallica. That's
wow! Holy smokes! I did not see that coming, Mark Tremonti.
oh man! Celtic Frost is and I got to meet Tom G. Warrior. I'm like, is it Celtic or Celtic? He's like, it's whatever you want. I'm like, all right, Celtic.
Right. We called it Celtic.
Yeah. So that's
Morbid Tales, Circle of the Tyrants.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. So there's a I try to throw little hints of Celtic Frost into my music, like on Alter Bridge song "Waters Rising." I use the word "Circle of Tyrants." I say this "Circle of Tyrants" in the song as a throwback to Celtic Frost.
Wow.
And I've gotten to hang with Tom a few times, and one time he came to our dressing room, and there were two guitars there because my tour manager said he wanted to come and jam. And I was like, okay, here's a guitar. He's like, what did you have in mind? I'm like, oh, I thought you wanted to jam. He's like, no, but it'd be kind of cool as if when we came through town with Triptychon or Celtic Frost, if you got on stage with us, just to see how the crowd would react because of your past with Creed. I think the fans would be, they think it was a weird thing, and he liked that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking to him about he was helping out Geiger when he was sick, and he was ill, so he was at his house all the time, and he's like, here, Tom, take, or Thomas Gabriel, I think his first name is Tom, right? Tom's. He's like, why don't you take this painting or this and that? I'm like, and you didn't take it? I mean, that's the guy who did Alien. This is the guy. He's like, I don't believe in material possessions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow. Geiger offers you a painting. You're like, no, I don't believe in it.
Right. Good for him. I'd be taking that shit.
Oh yeah. I'd have Geiger art.
I'm material as a motherfucker.
I'd have a Geiger statue in my studio.
I do. I mean, yeah. I mean, he's already had him do his album cover, so he's probably just like, oh yeah, whatever. Like he did my album cover.
Absolutely. But to me, one of the moodiest, coolest bands I ever ran into.
For sure. I mean, just even all of my, maybe not musically so much for me, although I do love those first 3 albums were fucking incredible. But certainly as a vocalist, all the ooh, ah, wow, like all that shit that I put in my music is straight up. I mean, like I jacked it right from him, Tom
Oh yeah,
Gabriel.
oh yeah. Well, he had like 8 different voices, and every record he comes out with, he's got another 2 personalities in his voice, which is cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how much of an influence that band was. I mean, for me, what it was for you, but coming from me, I'm 16 years old. I'm learning how to play Morbid Tales, and I've got an amp about this big. I got like a little 4-inch amp that my dad rented me that came with the guitar that he also rented me, and I'm trying to learn Morbid Tales and Procreation of the Wicked, and every time Tom stops, there's a bunch of feedback. Because his amp is so fucking loud, he's got so much distortion, and my little 4-inch amp doesn't feedback because like it's almost a clean
I'm
tone.
not doing it right.
I know, and I'm like, what is that sound? Like I can't figure out what the sound is, and so I hit a harmonic. And one of the trademarks of Machine Head is like, we have a lot of harmonics in our music, and I thought that feedback was a harmonic. So when I'm playing along, I'm playing a harmonic every time he stops to do feedback. And then I just get good at making that sound. And that sound then becomes Machine Head's, trademark. And of course, years later, I realize I'm wrong. And when I get a real amp, I'm like, oh, it's feedback. That's what that sound is.
So that was Celtic Frost. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow,
All from Celtic Frost.
Yeah. I like, I think I just got some of their doomier side of stuff. When I'm sitting and writing doomy stuff, I'll write tons of it, but then it never makes it onto a record because it's just going down my dark little rabbit hole that, nobody wants to listen to a 20-minute doom song by a guy like me.
Or maybe they do. Maybe they will, Maybe they will. Hey, everyone, let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. If you did not know, Machine Head owns and operates 10 Ton Trading Company, the official merchandise company for the band. We make the designs, we source out all of the materials, get our friends and local businesses to print it all up. It is fulfilled by us. Everything is 100% DIY. So if you're buying from Machine Head, that money is going directly to us. It's not going to some big corporate merchandise company who's taking a gigantic cut of it. No. This is going right to us, and it helps support everything we do and has certainly been, amazing during the pandemic. So for all the people that have been loyal subscribers here on No Fucking Regrets, if you head over to 10tontradingco.com right now and enter the code No Fucking Regrets, you'll get 15% off. That's No Fucking Regrets for 15% off of the entire store. So head over there, check it out one more time. No Fucking Regrets for 15% off store wide, and that's for being a loyal subscriber and listener here to the podcast. Anyway, let's get back to the show. Is anybody in your family musical? Like, are your brothers in bands? Is your mom in the church choir or anything like that?
No, my oldest brother was in a band called Klepto back in high school, and they were the biggest band in school. Like but it was more of a glam rock. He would wear he'd wear like his jean jacket with patches and that kind of thing. But
yeah, like Twisted Sister kind of vibe.
Yeah, and he used to be he would get big roles in like the school plays and stuff. Like at the Oklahoma, so he was already used to singing on stage. But then he just stopped, and I just was my older brother Dan's an artist, and my dad's an artist, so they were both went to art school. So I think just the creative side, I guess, is in the family. But other than my brother singing, nobody's musical at all.
Okay.
My dad would sit there. I would write, and he would come into the room and just sit there for hours, and he'd be like, "Wait, Mark, stop. That was beautiful. It sounded like birds flying." He doesn't know how to explain music, so he'd get all into it and explain to me what he thought. And they love music, but just not musical.
Are your parents like hippies, or are they like just regular?
No, they're regular. My dad was very like a blue collar. He was a car salesman for a little while, so that's why it wasn't blue collar. No, he was just tough Detroit kind of guy.
Right on. Right on.
He was
I was trying to put the picture of like, it sounds like birds,
yeah. No, he loved
Tough
music. But
Detroit guy though makes sense now, like it sounds
tough
like birds.
Detroit. He was into drag racing and all he had probably a bunch of bad friends when he was young. I think he ran with a bad crowd.
When do you start playing in high school? Are you in bands in high school?
Yeah, I started when I was 11 playing guitar, and I bought my first guitar from a buddy of mine. It might have been a little later than 11. I think I might have been 6th or 7th grade, and my buddy had a guitar that he was selling because his parents were buying him. It was you remember the Tokai guitars, Japanese Strat-looking guitars. He was getting himself a Tokai, so he was going to sell me his Tara black Les Paul, which to me that's the ultimate guitar back then. I wanted a black Les Paul, and he sold it to me for $10.
Wow!
So it was a Les Paul imitation. I'm sorry, Tara, Tara. And then I went to the pawn shop and bought a $40 amp that was plastic, completely plastic, with like not even a 10-inch, like an 8-inch speaker, tiny little
right.
thing. It sounded like hell. It didn't even have a back on it. It was falling apart. And then I think my parents just saw that I stuck with it. And every Christmas I'd ask for, I actually got a half stack when I was young. My parents got me a crate G1500. So I had this
nice.
tiny little bedroom with a huge half stack.
Crates were the big thing back then too, right?
Man. It looked awesome. It was black with red piping on it.
Oh shit!
And I would take my record player, and I had the output that I could put into my 4x12, and it was just loud as hell, and I sounded like shit, but it was
You'd
loud.
play along to the records through your amp, through your cab.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
So my bed pretty much came right up to the to the half stack. So I couldn't get away with playing late at night because it was just too loud. I wish I had, like a Roland Microcube back then. That would have been perfect.
Oh my God, those things are awesome. I love those things. The little battery powered thing. They sound fucking awesome.
Batteries last forever.
Yeah.
To me, it's. Look, I'm sitting right here and.
Fucking shout out to Roland for the cube. This thing, it's the greatest invention ever. Like, it's awesome.
Definitely one of the best amps you could get. I always tell people who are learning guitar that, what should I buy? Should I get what's an entry level thing? Like that's $150, I think, for a Microcube.
Yeah.
100% buy that.
You don't even need anything more than that. That little Microcube, it's got the killer chorus and delay thing.
Oh yeah. You can mic it and nobody would know it wasn't an expensive tube amp.
Yeah.
It sounds great. So yeah.
You do, but you're getting your first band right around this time?
So I get in my first band. Our first band was called Distortion, and the singer was Jeremy Adair, and I had Greg Wisniewski on drums, Roy Fredrickson on bass, and our drummer was awesome. He was a little older than us, and he had a killer kit. It was so hard to find a drummer. Nobody had a full acoustic kit. So my buddy Jeremy let us practice in his basement, and it was more of like a punk metal thing.
Okay.
Like a sloppy metal, speed metal-y. Our singer was just kind of he had the perfect personality for that, and our drummer was great. And then there was this other band in town.
What year is this? Like, what era of metal is this?
7th grade, maybe 8th grade.
Like 88, like late 80s, early 90s?
So if I'm 10 years old in 4th grade, I'm 13, probably 88. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably 80, 86, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this was, and then there was another band in town. Gosh, what was their name? I forget, but our band was Wits End.
Okay. Not Distortion.
No, wait. Oh God. Diversion. My first band was, damn it.
Okay.
Diversion was my first band, and Wits End was my second band. Wits End was an all-star band between two bands that wanted to combine forces to make the best band.
Okay.
So we kept our drummer. We lost our guitar player, other guitar player, and our singer, and we got a new singer, Kevin Barnes, who was an awesome singer, who now is in a professional band that is way artistic, like way different. He's in a band called of Montreal, and almost like a David Bowie. Like he'll come on stage like on a horse, half naked.
Oh wow, crazy!
Like in a wedding dress or something.
Right.
So I remember getting a request to do an interview for Rolling Stone magazine to discuss Kevin Barnes and his career. So it's crazy how split apart we ended up being. But we formed this band, Wits End. We went to Side Stick Studios in Detroit and recorded a demo of 5 songs. My favorite song was Pull My Trigger. It was more of like at that point we were more kind of like a Motley Crue sounding band.
Okay.
And then my parents moved me to Florida, and I hated it. Nobody, I looked for other musicians. Nobody even knew who Metallica was.
Oh,
Nobody
wow.
played. I ran into one kid who owned a guitar. He said he was a guitar player. And then every day I'd be like, hey, man, what are you doing after school? Hey, man, what are you doing after school? I was just a lonely kid. I had no friends at all. And he's like, all right, finally, he comes over to my house one day with his guitar, and he couldn't even play a chord at all. I'm like, you own a guitar, but you're not a guitar player.
Right.
So all throughout high school, I had nobody to play with at all. So I bought a Fostex 4-track and learned how to become a songwriter. And I'm thankful for those times, because I had all the time in the world just to be this depressed, lonely kid who had nothing to do but write songs and record and learn how to play. And
you're talking about the cassette 4-tracks, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I still have all those songs and all those cassettes and some of the
that's
worst
awesome.
songs.
You've got that. That's so good.
Yeah. But there's one song that I recorded in junior high or high school, maybe my freshman year or 8th grade, called Wish You Well, that ended up being on our first record with Tremonti. And now that's the song that we end pretty much every set with live.
Oh, cool.
So that's a song like I wrote as a tiny kid, and it made it.
And you would just record on your 4-track and then play along to yourself on what you recorded on the 4-track, right?
I would take Dr. Rhythm, a Boss Dr. Rhythm, and I would put in like a thrash beat. And I'd record that in there, and then I'd do 2 guitars left and right and a vocal, pretty much no bass.
Right. Though, it's so like, I think that there's something about doing that, like learning to play to yourself, or just learning to play to something else, even if it's just you playing it.
Oh, yeah.
You're forcing yourself to learn to play with someone or something, doing 2 things at the same time, like, I think that there's something about that makes you better, I believe.
Absolutely. And then you play with a real drummer for the first time, and it blows your mind. That's the coolest.
Totally.
When you hear those real drums in a room with your guitar, it's the best.
I was lucky in my first drummer. I was like, he was great, best guy ever. Turned me on to all the thrash that I listened to, but like he was not a good drummer. So we'd play like a thrashing and be like, booty 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 booty. So you had to learn how to ride the snake. And like at the time I was just like, this is crazy, but like, dude, it really does make you like your ear just becomes so tuned in to what the drummer's doing that like. It doesn't matter. Like you can follow anybody now.
Yeah, if your drummer's not solid, it's you're dead to begin with. You cannot have a bad drummer that stops in the middle of a song. This just can't happen.
Yeah, but it's like Dave Grohl says, like you just got to get together in a room and suck for 6 months, and it's so true. Like you just got to suck for 6 months, and then like somewhere around there you get good, and you connect or whatever. You become intertwined as a.
Yeah, and you realize that when you do, you're doing sound check on tour with other bands, and another drummer will be like, "Hey, man, let me sit in with you guys during sound check," and you play, you're like, "It just doesn't feel right. It's on top of the beat, or it's this or that," and then you realize all the time you spent with your drummer it pays off. You just start you mesh.
I've been doing. I listened to the Metallica podcast a few weeks back. They got a podcast now where they're talking about, the early days and kind of going into all of their albums. And I got so far into it, but at one point, and I've been asking every guest who comes on, and even like talking to the fans of my podcast and having them write in. But Lars talks about at one point, people have this attachment to Master of Puppets that in his mind is like way over the top, but he chalks it up to, he's like, so many people lost their virginity to Master of Puppets, like they associate Master of Puppets with sex, so it's like, forever to them, it's like the most important thing ever. Mine was Merciful Fate. So like forever I've, Merciful Fate has this ridiculous attachment in my head, so.
Funny you said Merciful Fate's one of my massive bands as a kid. That's as an adult. Merciful Fate's that's my shit. I love it.
That's awesome, man. It's so funny. Like I don't know if I'm sure people know this about you. Your fans must know this about you, but I guess maybe the world at large that thinks of Alter Bridge or Creed might not know, some super deep metal roots. Those are.
Yeah, no.
It's not like you're a Metallica fan, because that's, anybody can be a fucking Metallica fan. Like.
No, I'm definitely the guy in the bands that brings the darker side, the metal stuff. But and like I said, when we started Creed in college, there was a guy who could sing. There was a guy who could play drum. We just all got together, and when I would sit there and go, they'd look at me like, "What are you playing? We can't do that." So I try to seep in more and more of the metal stuff, but it's just never worked. And then when I got into Alter Bridge, I had the same rhythm section, so I'd still do the same thing. Do the metal stuff. And finally, I'm like, listen, I got 3 months off. Miles is on tour with Slash. I'm going to put out some of these riffs that I've had sitting around for years. I'm going to write these songs and do it.
Yeah.
And I can't do. I wish I could do I can't do the heavy vocal.
Right.
I've tried. I just can't do it. But I would love to just do a side project that's just extreme metal and get it all out once and for all.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah. It'd be fun.
It would be super fun. You'd probably have a blast, dude.
Absolutely. I'd never go back to anything else.
I gotta say, when I was researching you, like just reading through some of the Creed numbers, and I mean, you guys were fucking massive. I mean, the numbers of just the U.S. sales alone are just like head fuck material. I mean, 6 million copies on your first record, 11 million copies on your second record. I think 8 million for your third record. I was like, Jesus fuck. I mean, like, the world must have just flipped upside fucking down for you when all of this took off.
Yeah, I was. I
mean, it must have been kind of hard to process, or maybe it wasn't hard to process. Maybe like
it was. It wasn't an overnight thing. It was. The first. It took us a couple of years to really settle into, how big it had gotten. But I did go from. I'm the guy who had the worst jobs in the world. So I went from a guy who worked at the Octopus Car Wash to working as a fry cook, to getting a record deal, to going from a fry cook to going on tour. So that was a cool thing. I don't have to clock into work anymore. I get to get on the tour bus, and
right.
I get per diem. How much per diem? I get $500 a week in per diem.
Holy shit!
Wow,
like that's more than I'm making at the fry cook.
I worked 40 hours at least a week, and I'd make $350, $380.
Yeah.
I remember when I worked at the car wash, I was making $385 an hour or something. Nothing. But anyways, I always had in the back of my mind, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try my hardest and do my best. I'm not going to be stuck in this position forever. I'm going to be in a band, and this is going to happen. And it's as an adult, you read, you have people talk about what's that one book called, like The Answer or whatever, where if you think it will happen, it will come to you, kind of a thing.
Right.
I don't think that's 100% true, but I think if you do have that drive and that I'm not doing anything else but this, it helps.
Right.
So it was
no backup plans.
No, I was going to college. I was working full time as a fry cook and doing part time in school while I was putting myself through school. My parents after my freshman year in college, my parents said that I was pretty much on my own in school. So I had to work to put myself through school. Started the band in school, and then we got lucky enough to get one of our songs on local radio, the local station. It pisses me off. Some people be like, yeah, Creed was just some corporate put together record label band that they took these musicians and wrote their songs for them. couldn't be farther from the truth. You know, we were broke ass college kids, got a song on local radio. There was a locals only show on the weekend, and my manager called and he's like, yeah, you know, we had this local guy who's a local club promoter in town, and he managed all these bands and put them on all the different gigs. And then one night he called all his bands into a room for a meeting. He's like, all right, guys, I'm too busy to manage all you guys. I'm just going to keep two of you. And it was us and one other band. I forget what the other band was. But anyways, he got us on Locals Only show. And then he's like, man, you guys were the most requested band on Locals Only show, like week after week. So the radio station is going to put you on full rotation.
Wow.
And then they
just
put
pretty
us on
amazing for a demo.
Oh,
and, you know, like,
it was
especially
nuts.
when you're on a locals only, this is not like, there's no record company paying this. There's no like,
no. And then we had put our tapes or CDs. Can't remember.
Is this like a demo? Or this is like your demo essentially?
This is our demo that we spent maybe $4 or $5 grand on. You know, we'd all put our hourly rates into a bucket and pay for our demos. And we put it on sale at the local guitar shop, sold records, and the local record shop sold records. And I think we had sold like, just from the locals only thing, we had sold like 400 copies. And then when we got into regular rotation, it was the #1 most requested song in town on the big radio station. So I remember we used to play this club called Floyd's Music Store. And we would play there, and our friends would come in, and we might play for like 60, 70 people. And then one night I'm in there after the song got on regular rotation, and I'm sitting at the bar having a beer, and this guy sits down next to me. He's like, hey, you know about this band Creed? I'm like, well, I'm actually in the band. He's like, well, it looks like there's a lot of people here to see you. The line's blocks long outside the building. I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, yeah, you better get backstage. So I went backstage, and I just saw the crowd filter into the club, packed shoulder to shoulder. I think I threw up backstage. That was the one moment of I'm a fry cook to holy shit, I'm playing a sold out big venue in our college town, and that was a big night for me. That show there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. I mean, that's got to be such a good feeling.
Oh yeah. But I was still that nervous guy on stage and playing in the dark by my amp, you know.
Is that My Own Prison song? Is that the song?
My Own Prison was the big song. Yeah, it was. It was the first single. It was what launched the band, and then Torn came out second. And
this is still just the local radio station that started playing you, and now it's like kind of worked its way into regular rotation.
Yeah,
you're unsigned at this point?
Unsigned, and then record labels started calling because they see this new. I guess they watch all the radio programmers and they see who's this band that you guys are playing. And wow, they're the most requested on your station. Wow. But then they started calling the local record shops, and I think the local record shop was friendly with us and exaggerated numbers, like, oh yeah, they sold thousands of copies. So,
thank you.
Yeah. So Atlantic came down and Atlantic passed. And it's funny. To this day, I've got this thing with Atlantic. I'm like, Atlantic, whatever. You passed on us.
I love that you kept it.
Oh, yeah.
I kept mine, too. I kept all my rejection letters. I was like, fuck you. Fuck you.
Oh, you bastard.
You fucking dicks.
Serves you right, Atlantic. And then Cherry Music, I think Cherry Music was part of Sony. They came down, and they were very nice. And then Wind Up Records came down. And Wind Up was a brand new record label.
I was going to say, I never heard of Wind Up prior to Creed. Like, it was just who the fuck is Wind Up?
So when you're in this band and you want to get signed, you hear Wind Up, you're like, what is that? That's not going to do anything for us because nobody's ever heard of them. And then it turns out the owner of Wind Up had sold CD One Stop. And CD One Stop was some sort of huge $100 million company that he sold. And he bought a record label. We were just in the right time because he had all the money in the world to put behind the band once we had traction. We wouldn't get that nowadays. Record labels will spend, you know, if they spend $100 grand on your band, you're blessed, you know. But back then, they're just throwing money all over the place. So it was, you know, we had all the marketing. Radio took off, and It was just,
And especially if you're having like a hit in a local area, like it makes it easier for the other radio stations around the US to be like, oh yeah, well it's working there, so we'll
oh
take
yeah.
a chance on it.
What's funny is after Tallahassee, we had, I think, Milwaukee, the Laser, I think was the first station outside of Florida that picked us up. So those are the kind of people that the programmers who added you back then, they're like your lifelong friends. They're the ones that got you off the ground and you
Right.
do anything for them.
Totally.
It just kind of took off from there, and we just hit the ground running. We'd go to every single radio station and play acoustic sets. And
Do you go on tour at that point?
oh yeah, we toured.
Yeah, okay.
We never stopped. And since we were a college band, we were just touring, and then we just went on.
Like just touring up and down Florida.
Well, we would tour in Tallahassee, Gainesville, and then our first show out of the state was, I think, in Georgia somewhere.
Right.
There was some festival. I remember.
And you guys are touring in like a van, a RV, cars.
Well, the first tour, I think when we went to Georgia, we had just Brian, our bass player. He had like his dad was a doctor, so he had the most. He had the most money, so he had a nice like Honda Accord. So I think we got this Honda and went up there.
Honda Accord's not very big either. Like that's it's probably nice though, right? Like it's got AC.
We might have had two cars, but remember one of the first shows out of the state. We had I think Hootie and the Blowfish was doing some big outdoor festival, and we got a slot on there with a bunch of rock bands, and then it got rained out, so we went to this local bar and asked them if they would want a band in here, and they said sure. And I looked at all the pictures on the wall, and it was a bunch of country artists, and I think we had said, we might be too much of a rock band to play in this club. And the guys there were like, too much of a rock band. Who do they think they are, kind of thing. And then we set up our stuff, and then the band before us was a band called The Divine. Badass band. They turned into the Virgos Merlot, and
okay.
Brett Hessler was a singer. Now he's a producer. One of the best musicians I've ever worked with. And he actually took over bass for Creed after Brian got kicked out of the band. So
okay.
It's cool that we ran into him way back in the early days. And that Divine record's still one of my favorite albums. But I remember going into this, what I thought was a country bar, and all of a sudden the band pops out playing some aggressive, badass stuff. And we've got, we just toured as much as we could, and things just kind of went like this. It never went, overnight. It was kind of a couple year long fight until we got settled.
Yeah. And then it seems like that second record is where everything just kind of exploded, just crazy.
Yeah. Well, people were like, when the first song came out, you're a one-hit wonder, and then the second song came out. All right, second record's going to come out, sophomore slump kind of thing.
Right.
And then the first single did really well, and then the world just started hating on us. It was just, it went from being an underdog to being the band that had all the songs on radio that everybody wanted to see fail. And it's just, it just sucks. When I grew up a massive fan of music, and I loved writing music, and I loved writing songs. I loved doing this. And, it just went from being, this is great, to being, we're successful, but people either love us or hate us. And it just wasn't a cool feeling, at a certain point. Like with Alter Bridge, we don't get any of that. Everybody's very positive about the band. Everybody, but I guess if you're...
Creed was just, it was just everywhere though. You know what I mean? Like you guys are on the cover of Spin magazine, all baby oiled up, and
oh man, everybody has their skeletons. That was
totally, yeah, for sure.
That's the worst. Whenever I'm in a group chat with my friends, a text chat, and we start messing with one another, they just post that picture. and it just shuts us down. I went to a.
You're like, I knew I shouldn't have put the goddamn baby oil on.
You know what though? When we that was our first cover of
that was a big deal, and it was like
magazine. Imagine you're a kid. You're pretty much a kid. This is you're newly successful, and you have this famous photographer from one of the world's biggest magazines. He's like, all right, let's try one without your shirts on, guys. And I'm like, wait, you gotta keep my my tank top, this and that. And back then, you're like, hey, this is what it takes to have a career.
Right.
They're not telling me how to write a song.
Yeah, I
That's the
mean, even
worst.
the fact that they put you guys on though was like, oh, I remember. I mean, I remember the cover back when it came out, and I was like, oh shit, like Creed's like, Spin was pretty
Yep.
alternative-y, like,
Yeah,
they didn't
yeah.
always put like a band of your style on their cover, so it was like, oh dang, like they're fucking,
I wish they hadn't. That was the one.
can we
I
just
learned
wear
my
our
lesson.
shirts?
I learned my lesson, man. You see other guys in bands that, like, you look back on. I won't say names. You look on back to some of the coolest guys nowadays in their early bands, and you see them with the big puffed up hair and
Right,
the
right.
eyeliner and stuff.
Of course, yeah, totally.
You
Yeah,
go through the years, man. We were in the early '90s, so
it
we're
was
learning.
huge though. I remember going to I got married in 2000, and I remember we went to on honeymoon, and I remember we went to Fiji. I mean, on a fucking island in the middle of nowhere, dude. Like we're fucking. This is like one of the most remote islands I've ever been to in my life, and fucking every 2 hours, fucking Creed is coming on the goddamn radio station in Fiji. I'm like, this
Yeah,
fucking Creed band is in Fiji. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
dude, I need to go tour Fiji then, man. That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. You have a lot of fans there, I would imagine. You're fucking, and it's
But
beautiful.
it's funny though. As big as it was in the States, we'd go over to Europe and play clubs, and then a lot of tours got, you know, Scott would say, I'm not feeling good. Let's cancel the show. And we end up going home. Um,
Oh,
so we would.
because it's a small show,
I don't know. Who knows back then what was
right?
truth behind it all. But we would play at arenas in the States and go over to Europe and play 800 people or 1,500 people, which nowadays for my band would be awesome. I'd play for 1,500 people every night. It'd be great.
Right.
But when you're in the States playing arenas and then you come back over, it's like, why are we doing this? So that's one of the best things that ever happened to Alter Bridge is Creed did not get any foothold in Europe. So when Alter Bridge started in the States, everybody's like, it's the guys from Creed. Screw this band.
Right.
And then in Europe, nobody really cared about Creed. So Alter Bridge took off over in Europe. So the UK is our biggest fan base in the world.
Right.
In Europe, just, like Alter Bridge will play the O2 Arena in London, and in the States, we play like House of Blues or
Right.
great venues, but just such a big difference, between the two
Yeah, you guys
continents.
are really big there. It's awesome.
Thank,
Congratulations
thank,
on.
thank goodness. We wouldn't. I don't know if we'd still have a career if it wasn't for England backing us up early on.
Yeah.
Because it was a tough road. Getting Alter Bridge out of the ashes of Creed was very hard.
Yeah. I followed the story. I have a confession to make. I am not the biggest Alter Bridge fan at all.
Hey, not everybody has.
I have, I tell you, I feel like an island in the middle. I feel like a sandbar in the middle of the ocean. Like I'm the only person I know who doesn't like every fucking person I know is like Alter Bridge is fuck, and I'm just like like. Miles' voice can just drive me crazy sometimes. Like, seems like awesome singer. Seems like the nicest guy ever. Like, fucking, I've seen you guys. Like, it's just doesn't connect
Some
with me.
people don't. Some people like tenors, and some people don't like tenors. It's that that was a big chance we took when we started Alter Bridge because he's so far different from Scott that
Totally.
we weren't trying to hang on to we weren't trying to do the same thing. And that
Right.
was one of the things I wanted to do was do something that was completely, not at first completely different, but eventually get to be something completely different than what we were doing. And
Yeah.
and I didn't realize.
It totally worked. Like it totally worked.
Oh yeah,
Like you guys came out and it was heavier and like, it's kind of interesting too that you were able to, you went from a massively successful band that, like you said, was loved and hated. And then you were able to totally go into this other thing. That's not the normal arc of a musician to like have
yeah.
this second life, like that become successful again. And
It was hard, man. It was not. A lot of people think you had it easy because you had your door open from the Creed stuff. It was the opposite. The Creed stuff held us back.
right.
It was an anchor for us. It was. I'm very appreciative. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the Creed success.
Right.
but getting Alter Bridge off the ground. I remember before we had looked into Miles, I remember listening to his records and going, imagine what I could do with the power of this guy's voice next to me, because I remember there's a song he did called Summer Girl with Mayfield 4, where he just kills it. And I was like, man,
So you guys knew each other prior to this, like you guys might have been touring festivals or something.
They opened up for Creed for a little bit.
Okay.
And Miles was telling a funny story where I guess when we all met, Scott had asked one of his bandmates to get him a Coke or something like that. He didn't realize he was in the band or something. And he's like, yeah, that's when I first met you guys. But Miles was just a very laid back, soft spoken guy. Then when you saw him play live, you're like, this guy's insane. He's just, his pitch, tenor vocalists over the years that I've seen play live usually aren't super solid, a lot of them. But Miles is super solid every single night. And he is, of all the people I've worked with, the hardest worker that I've gotten a pair up with.
Awesome.
And he's me and Slash have both said he's the best guitar player in the band.
He's a ripping guitar player, dude. I saw him with the Slash band and I was like, fucking hell. Like, I didn't even know he played guitar. I was like, damn, dude.
Yeah. I remember one night when we were putting a record together, I went by, he was staying in my house, and I hear all this jazz coming out of the room he's staying in. I poke my head in, and it's him playing it. I'm like, what the hell? I didn't even know he played guitar more than a couple chords. And it turns out he did like a guitar competition in the Pacific Northwest with like 150 contestants, and he won first place back in the day. So he's a great, his vibrato is some of the best vibrato I've ever heard. His phrasing is super tasty, and as good as him and I come from different schools, and we fill each other's space, our voids. And I think when we get to sing together as well, I have the deeper voice, he has the higher voice, so it meshes well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that must have been. Did you have pretty big success off the first record of Alter Bridge? Like, was it pretty immediate?
No, not at all. Not at all. It was, I think it shipped a lot of copies and it did okay, but it wasn't a big success. It was decently successful, and even Blackbird was decently successful. And I think it was the touring that really got us to be a solid band. I remember it took us until our third record where I finally felt, how you're hustling as a musician, you're like, my career could end with the next record. My career could end with the next single. What am I going to do when my career ends? I don't want to go back to school. I don't want to get another shitty job. So it took my entire career up until the AB3 record for me to finally say, I've got a solid enough fan base where I think I can do this for as long as I want, as long as we put out good music.
Yeah.
That was the first time. By the time we got there, because everybody in the band's cool with one another. Nobody's going to split the band up. Miles couldn't be any nicer of a person. Me and the other guys have been in bands for 20 years, and so it was a good, comforting feeling for once in my life, being like, all right, my career is stable.
Yeah, it seemed like it got a little unstable at the end of the initial Creed run.
Oh, yeah, as unstable as it could get. Yeah,
it
was brutal. The ending was brutal. It was definitely. Imagine you have all your eggs in one basket at this point. Your dreams have come true, but your worst nightmares are on the horizon. And I remember me and Scott Phillips, my drummer, he would quit. I'd say, "Don't quit, dude. Don't leave me here by myself." Okay, I'll stand for you. And then I'd quit. Dude, don't quit, man. Don't quit. So we'd quit back and forth till one day I was like, I'm over it. I quit. He's like, all right, I'm with you. Let's do something different. So we.
Is this after the Chicago show?
This is after that. Well, the Chicago show happened. That was a bad one, and then.
But it's just like everything leading up to it, or whatever.
There was a few bad ones after that as well, and then after the tour, everybody went their separate ways to decompress, and then I think it was when we were supposed to get back together to do some writing. That I had called it. I'm like, I'm not getting back in a room and doing this again. I think I had realized at that point that I had had enough success at that point to be able to afford some time to work on some other project, and I didn't have to go get a a 9 to 5. I
Right.
could stay in music and experiment with something different and go for it. And that was when we started Alter Bridge. And we called Brian immediately because he got kicked out of Creed. So we said, all right, you can come
Oh, so
back.
you two quit, and then the other guy got kicked out.
Well, Brian got kicked out after the second record tour. So the third
Oh,
record.
gotcha. Okay.
So I played bass on the third record, and then we had Brett Hessler sit in live.
Okay.
And he was, always, he got kicked out for, Scott was a hothead at the time, and Brian was a partier at the time. So it didn't, we couldn't defend him anymore. So we're like, listen.
Isn't everybody partying though at this point? I mean, you guys are selling millions and millions of fucking records. Like, I would imagine this is if there was a Motley Crue moment in Creed, like, it's probably around at this point.
It's just one of those things where it's like, hey, I don't want to air any dirty laundry, but it was just certain things where we're like, there's rules and regulations that you're breaking every single time, and we try to stick up for you, but you keep on breaking them. And if I follow the rules and he follows rules and he follows rules and you don't time and time again, and the one guy wants you out of the band, we're going to protect you for the first 5 or 6 times. But after that, what the hell are we supposed to do?
Right.
Right. So please just be responsible. And it just got to a point where we couldn't defend him anymore. And he got kicked out. And then, so when Creed disbanded, we called Brian.
It must have been so much pressure. Like, there just must have been so much pressure on the band. Like, I don't know you, I don't know Scott, I don't know anything, but just from looking at from the outside, like, when you're a band that's sold that many records, you're that fucking big, and then you've also got the fame fishbowl of people just going, oh, fuck Creed, they're too pop, or that, all of that, it is negativity. Like, it's pretty toxic. Like, it fucking gets to you, like, I'm never ever been that big at any point in my life, but that toxic fucking energy fucking wears on you, man.
Oh, it was not only the toxic stuff from some of the press, but it was just in the band, on the tour buses,
Right.
There was a lot of, it got to there's a reason why you break up the biggest band out there, because it was unbearable at the point. There's just, imagine just being uncomfortable all the time. It just wasn't worth it. So,
right.
Like now, it's one thing that I tell other people that, hey, what's your advice on being in a band, a successful band? Make sure all your bandmates are cool and get along.
Right.
There's not a hothead, or there's not, that goes, I'd rather have a musician that's a B- that's cool than an A+ and that's an asshole.
Right. Yeah. How long did Creed last? Was that about 7 years?
7 years. 7 years. Alter Bridge has been going twice as long now as Creed.
Wow. That's crazy.
My solo band's been going just as long as Creed did, or longer now at this point.
And like, 7 years is 7 years in band years is a long time. I don't want to say it like it's dog years, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, 7 years in band years is fucking a long time. The Beatles, 10 years, Led Zeppelin, 10 years, Black Sabbath, prior to Dio, 10 years. Like, they couldn't take each other after that. Like, it fucking happens,
That big amount of success really is the pressure cooker, man. It's not, there was only 3 records in there, in our successful moment. We did 1 record after, but that was after the fact. But in that whole time, it was 3 albums, endless touring, endless fighting within the band,
right?
Endless people stealing from you and figuring out this and loitering this and lawsuits this and that. It was just I did not get into this for this. It's not what I wanted. Right. I'd rather be unknown at this point and play a local bar and have fun singing to people who enjoy music that aren't gonna cause me stress.
I can only imagine what a I mean, Alter Bridge must have just been like such a cathartic, thing for you, like going into, and scary. Like, I would imagine it was probably scary, like that you might not be accepted, that it might not ever work again.
Yeah, it was brutal, definitely. I mean, putting that record out, finding a new producer and new singer, and
same label. Was it the same label?
Same label, but
so you're stuck in the deal. You can't get out of the deal.
We're stuck in the deal, and our label wanted their Creed back. So our call us paranoid, but we thought that they didn't do much of a job for us because they wanted their cash cow back. So we're stuck in this deal, not getting the proper. I can't legally say that we didn't get a proper push. In my opinion, I don't think we got the proper push. And I think, my sneaking suspicion is you're not selling millions of records. You're just selling a little bits here and there. You're not really excited about it anymore, and you want your cash cow back. Right. So we had to. One of the biggest decisions I ever had to make was pretty much almost any penny I ever made in this business, I had to buy out of the record deal to go be free from the deal. And we, as Alter Bridge, we just paid off that record, that buyout right before COVID happened. So then COVID happens. So every tour we would do, we'd have to take 30% of our profits and pay off this debt year after year after year after year after year.
But was that part of the deal?
No, it was just we had a certain amount of money.
Okay,
a large amount of money that we had to buy off the record deal for, and it crushed us as a band financially. And it's not something we really talk about that much. And it's one of those things where, it'd be cool for people to know that you put everything you got into music. You put your pretty much your home life, your everything, your nest egg towards it. And we just paid that thing off.
Wow, that's a long time, man. I know exactly what you're talking about here. So I'm glad that you feel comfortable. Thank you for that you feel comfortable enough to talk about this with me, because I fucking totally know what you're talking about.
Well, now that it's paid off, I feel better about it.
You had a sunset clause with the record company. You had to pay them X amount of money to allow you to have your freedom. Yes. Which is a very common thing. People probably don't know this outside of the music business. It's very, sometimes you get with a manager, you leave them, there's a sunset clause. You've got to pay them your earnings for the next 7 years or 10 years or whatever. All this shit that you didn't even know existed when you're stoked as a fucking 19-year-old, 20-year kid. I'm signing with Wind Up. Yeah, cool. Or whatever.
Yeah, no. That's another thing. When you sign record deals, you better know what the hell you're doing.
Fuck yeah. Oh, my God. It's crazy.
A lot of people are just appreciative, and they're kids, and they don't want to piss anybody off by asking questions. You're going to ruin your life if you do that, So we actually bought off our first. We got signed by Universal Records after that and had to buy off of them as well.
Oh, wow.
So it just kept on.
The first, let me just get this right. The first Alter Bridge record is still on Wind Up, but you didn't feel like they did a good job. So then you bought yourself out of that deal for your second album, for Blackbird.
Yes, we were bought out. It just wasn't meshing with them anymore, and we bought out for a large amount. Signed to Universal Records. First single comes out and does fine. I think it went number 2 or something like that. And, but the record sales weren't enough to get Universal really to back it up as much as we wanted it to. So they kind of, to me, I thought they lost interest.
Right.
So we had to buy out of that deal.
Wow.
And then Roadrunner signed us, and they were awesome. Roadrunner came in and kicked ass. They went, Europe took off for us.
Yeah, they're a powerhouse in Europe, which is awesome.
They were awesome. And then I think they disbanded. A lot of the people split up out of the Roadrunner.
What year is the Roadrunner record?
Gosh, it had to have been I don't know, 2007 or something.
Okay,
like that.
Yeah. So we're label mates for a minute there then, because we were still on Roadrunner at that point. Yeah. Okay.
They were killer. They were great. Everybody that worked there was cool.
Yeah. Michelle.
Yeah, I loved them. And then now, still to this day, we use some of the same people that we used as promotion people, radio people, whatever. All the old school people from Roadrunner are still out there.
Yeah,
kind of
killing it. Yeah.
So I did not like record labels up until that moment.
Right. I mean, right. Jesus. Yeah, it's crazy that you even wanted to continue in the music business after all of that.
Well, I did do on my first record with the Tremonti band. I did it independently. my brother Dan was managing me back then. He's like, why in the world do you want to sign a record deal? I can just hire all these people individually, and we can do it ourselves. And we did it, and it was awesome because we could take exactly how much we wanted to spend on marketing and this and that. But the one thing he had told me, he's like, man, you shouldn't waste all your money on radio, man. We're spending all our money promoting this on radio, and you go and we spend so much in this city, and there's no cause and effect. It's like,
Right.
just don't do it anymore. So he's been the one trying to save money on that side of things, and then he just got too busy, and I have a different manager for it now. But once we were independent, we got approached by Napalm, and when they first approached us, they're like, no, we don't like working with record labels. It's better to do it ourselves. We have our favorite team of people. And then they just believed in us so much that they gave us a bigger advance than we could say no to at the time, and just went with it.
Yeah.
Because I did the math. It's like, how much income for a record for the same amount of sales as the last record would be. You have to match that with whatever advance minus marketing, that would be the number that I would say yes to.
Right.
This is the bottom line number, and they offered it, so we went with them, and we've done I don't know how many records. We've done a few Alter Bridge and a few Tremonti records with them now.
Oh, with Alter Bridge is on Napalm now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
We have a lot of the same folks that we've known for many years back in the Roadrunner days.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Isn't it funny that, like, you know, you're sitting here going through all the, like, how much math you've got to do, right? Like, you get in a band because you just want to live in the moment and, like, not even think about this. And then, like, as time goes on, you're like, oh no, I got to really think about this shit.
It's when you get off tour and you haven't done your math, and you get home and you're like, well, how am I going to pay my rent?
Why do I have no money? Where'd all the money go?
You got to make money somehow. Nowadays, it's selling T-shirts. It's not selling records. It's doing concerts and selling T-shirts.
Right. Totally.
So, yeah.
For sure. No, I got to say, it's really awesome. It's fascinating, your story, man. Like, what a fucking life you've led. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been definitely, I had some ups and downs for sure.
Yeah. And you're still going, man. And good for you for keeping going. You know, like, I remember hearing a quote one time when I was a kid, you know, and it was from Michael Jordan. And he said, you don't need to love the NBA. You just need to love playing basketball.
Yeah.
You know, and that stuck with me through all of these years, you know, decades. That saying has stuck with me because I absolutely, you know, you don't got to love the music business or the record company.
Yep.
You just got to love music.
That's right. Got to write a good song, love music. It's funny you bring up, you know, we have the Death Angel, Merciful Fate, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's my favorite of any human being, celebrity. He's the guy that's my number one guy. I got to meet him one time.
Did you really?
I lived in Chicago during the big, when they were killing it. And so Jordan's my favorite celebrity. Yeah.
Do you get a chance to talk to him? Like you're in Creed at this point?
Did. We were doing a show in Washington, and we had a night off, and the promoter said that Jordan hangs out at this club bar. It might have been Sunday night or something. So they gave us this little VIP couch when we were there, and the bar owner's like, you want me to let you know when Michael's here? I'm like, absolutely. So I'm sitting there hanging out. She comes over. She's like, Michael's here if you want to say hi. I just jumped up as quick as I could, went over, and he was wearing a full-on suit, tie. He was like lying down on the couch, just kind of hanging out. And he was a gentleman. He stood up, shook my hand, smiled, nice to meet you, chatted for a minute or so. And
rad.
He's way taller than I thought he was. But,
yeah.
You know, I think he's 6'7". You know, you see him on the court, he looks like he's average, but he's a big guy.
Yeah.
But he was very friendly, and still my biggest hero, pretty much in the celebrity world.
Yeah, that's rad, man.
Absolutely.
I tell you what, Mark Tremonti, it has been awesome talking with you, man.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll get on some shows together at some point here soon.
That would be amazing. I'd love that.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I hope I wish you the best with your new thing. I hope you get to do some touring very, very soon.
Yes, I hope so. You know, we're supposed to go to Europe in January, and hopefully it happens.
Yeah. Plug your new record one more time.
Marching in Time is our new record, and it's out everywhere you can buy or stream a record.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, right there, the mighty Mark Tremonti here on No Fucking Regrets.
No fucking regrets!
With Rob Flynn.
Nice.